This episode of the Community Workbench podcast is brought to you by yours truly, Matt Norn of Remax Bell Park. For all of your real estate needs, call me 860-428-6534. Your dreams are my job. Welcome to the Community Workbench. I'm Matt Norn, and Kyle filling in for Kyle Morrissey tonight is Jordan Zach of Salute Bar Cart and Salute Bar Cart Cafe. Did I say that right?
Salute Bar Cart, Salute Cafe, yeah, all one thing.
And we continue to try and be the number one podcast in my basement. At the bench, we try to repair the sense of community. So every week we bring you small businesses, entrepreneurs, community leaders, charities, and pretty much whoever we feel like talking to. And today we get to talk to Pat Boyd, the director of June Norcross Webster Scout Reservation in Ashford, Connecticut, and David Lee, the vice president of Connecticut Rivers Council District Operations. Hello, gentlemen.
How are you?
I think I got everybody's name right
yeah.
and title right. Director?
Yep,
right?
yep.
And how long have you been director?
20 years. This is my 20th summer camp season. So.
Congratulations. Are we doing anything big?
I'm here at the podcast. Long-time listener, first-time participant. So
nice. Dave, just say hi. What do you?
Hi.
What's your? I know you've carried many different roles in Boy Scouts.
So my current role is executive board member, vice president of district operations, kind of help the districts figure out their role and use the book. This organization's got everything written down somewhere, and just trying to get them to follow the plan. I've had, as you said, a bunch of different roles. I keep going, the last 5 or 6 years, I keep going down in levels, which is fine by me. So hopefully next we'll be out the door. But
Troop 44, you'll always have a place that we're not going to kick you out.
Former Scoutmaster.
former twice.
Scoutmaster. Okay. So, Pat, how did you get into Scouts and this whole role that you play at June Norcross?
Yeah, so I grew up in Plainfield, so I was a Cub Scout in Moose Up.
That's where I grew up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And then joined Troop 54 in Plainfield, which is still in existence. My father was a scout in Griswold Voluntown, so it was, they enrolled me in. It was great. I took advantage of everything. Became an Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
Spent a couple summers working at Moose Up Pond as a lifeguard.
Okay.
And then a couple of my buddies were working at Scout Camp. Folks that I had been involved in with the OA and other scouting stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you should come work at camp. Come work at camp." And I'm like, "Okay." I did that for a summer when I was 17, and I've been there ever since.
Wow.
So 27 years, and
Wow.
20 as the director. So.
Wow. And so you went in as a lifeguard.
Yep.
Because at June Norcross, it was beautiful lake.
Ross Pond. Yep.
Ross Pond. And so what was that journey like? Did you go to college and get a degree or that kind of stuff?
So I was hired as a lifeguard, like I said, when I was 17. Graduated Plainfield High School and then went to Eastern.
Okay.
Studying history, social science.
Wow.
And wanted to be a history teacher. That was
Okay.
kind of the path. And then just kept coming back for my summers. So, I was 18. I was a kind of an assistant program director, did all the fun stuff. I was the guy who sang the song in the dining hall and
nice.
ran all the stuff. Now I do all the boring stuff, and continued to kind of do some waterfront stuff and did that all through college and grad school. And then in 2005, the director moved on, and I was 24 years old, which is kind of unheard of for a camp director job of that size, and they offered me the job, the council's scout executive, which Dave sits on the board. Not at the time. And I said, sure. And I had a great team of really experienced people. And a lot of those people 20 years later are still part of the team.
Yeah.
And doing that. So, every year for, 2.5 months in the summer, I go to Ashford, put a team together of about 85 paid staff members. We become the largest employer in the town of Ashford for 2 months. Another cadre of volunteers, and we work with 125 troops that come to camp from everybody from Brooklyn. Troop 44 is one of the founding troops. in 1964 when the camp opened. This year we had a troop from Virginia Beach come up. They took the train to New Haven. We had scouts flying in from Florida and Missouri. And,
Wow.
some years we have folks from Arizona and all over the Northeast and all over Connecticut. So
Yeah.
it is a big operation. Everybody just says I drive by in 44, I see the signs,
Yeah.
but I never knew what was back there.
Oh, it's acres.
1,200 acres. Yep.
Yeah.
And a lot going on for the youngest Cubs. And, I went there as a kid. Dave went there as a kid. You went there as a kid.
Yep.
It's kind of become a rite of passage for a lot of kids in
Yeah.
this part of the world.
I'll say, so 4 years ago, my son did his first full week there. And I went with him as like a parent leader.
Yeah.
And I just they're in class, in different classes all day. So I just the other leaders were making fun of me because I was like, this is like vacation. It's like a beautiful resort,
Yeah.
Not reservation. This is it's so nice there. And the other thing I was going to say or wanted to make a point to say is how deep the bench is there. Like there are staff members there that are 20, 30 years that have been there. And it's really remarkable to the, how well people get treated and, you guys, how well you treat the campers and everything there.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a diverse group. I mean, our oldest staff member is 83 years old, been retired, was a scoutmaster in Andover forever. And some of the youngest staff members are 15 and 16. And, there's kids from Brooklyn who are working on camp staff.
Yeah.
Who are the up and coming leaders of tomorrow and everything in between, from a core group of teachers and college students and retirees. And, that's what I think the secret sauce is. You got to have that. You got to have that diversity and not just an older group or a younger group to make it all work. So it's a little city.
Yeah. I'll say that. And, it's just gives everybody so much different of an experience. You know what I mean? There's just always something going on. You guys have a ton of activities. There's these boys get there, or the scouts get there, and it's they are tired by nightfall.
That's a
That's what thing.
Well, polar bear swim. Man.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
in the
that's
morning,
right.
sure you-
I remember the first time I ever went. I was there as a scout and as an assistant scoutmaster for a year, but just following a schedule and being I got to be at this merit badge or this activity, and then the polar plunge early in the morning.
6:30.
Yeah. And then as an assistant scoutmaster, I was chilling in an Adirondack on the dining hall deck. That was the best.
They do have classes and meetings for us
Yes, they
leaders.
do.
And I've both had days where you get a ton done, and then you have days where you drink coffee a lot.
It
A lot
is
of
great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the key about scout camp and kind of any other summer camp is, particularly for scouting, a lot has changed. The world's changed. Kids have changed. You could do a whole nother topic of kind of, where kids are developmentally right now. But there are just some things that have been in existence from day one in 1964 when the camp opened, and probably when scouting was founded in the U.S. that are still in play now. But everything's evolved. When I was a kid there, to see that if somebody said we're going to have ATVs or personal watercraft or rock climbing, none of that stuff existed in the late 90s when I went there as a kid.
Right.
And to be able to do that now in a safe environment, I learned to shoot at scout camp.
Yeah.
There's no other place right now that I think kids can learn in a controlled, safe environment to shoot.
Right.
Yeah.
And archery and
archery,
rifle,
BB for the
handgun.
younger kids,
Yeah.
rifle and shotgun, and skeet.
12 gauge shotgun. That was my first time shooting a 12 gauge. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, and it's a controlled, safe environment.
Yeah, it was awesome.
There's very few other places that you can get that type of instruction.
Yeah.
And so we're proud of the safety record, and a lot of kids that I run into. I've been doing this long enough to run into kids, well after the fact, who look back at their time at camp and be like, I did this for the first time, I did that, and that's part of the reward to it. So.
Yeah. So is that a full-time position for you year round?
It is. It is not.
Oh, it's not.
Nope.
Not even for the director.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Well, the work exists.
I'm sure your phone goes
yeah, the
off.
work exists. But
The contract is for a short period of time.
Yeah, I don't do it for the money. It's you see the results of your work.
Yeah.
And in a time where you want to see good things happening, I leave the summer pretty pumped and energized. There is a bright future here.
Yeah.
Because of the stuff we do. But most of it is on the back of volunteers and year round. We have a team that works on things. But it is a part-time summer seasonal position.
Gotcha. I noticed there's a lot of a lot of people from the educational world, like teachers and stuff, that spend their summers there, and that's pretty cool too. Because what the Scouts are going there for is learning, so it's really
well. What I tell the college students and the high school kids too is like the work you do here when you put that on a resume. You know, your colleagues that are taking internship places, you know, you're not making copies for somebody, you're not getting somebody's coffee or doing errands. Like, you're leading groups of people, you're managing, you're organizing. You know, these are all marketable skills.
Right.
You know, and I credit a lot of stuff to Scouts that I learned as a kid and put into play, and, you know, as a public official and work in the legislature. I mean, that's all citizenship in the nation merit badge stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, we had a Major General Fran Yvonne, who's the Adjutant General of the National Guard, out this summer. He's the 2-star general in charge of everything in Connecticut, and he was a Scout.
Yeah.
And so his interest was to get back out into camp, and he was kind of reliving his old days, and he entered the military because of things he learned as a Scout. And so there's a lot of those success stories, probably more than we even know, out there, where somebody picked up a skill or did something for the first time, and then that became their career.
Right.
And that's kind of the magic of what we do here.
Yeah, they get so much exposure to so many different things that, you know, I know my son at his age, he has a hard time. Like, what don't I want to do? You know what I mean? Like, he's got to eliminate some stuff or wait till next year to.
What was his go-to?
This year he swimming merit badge. He finally got blue. So for people that don't know, the pond is sectioned off. So you have white, which is basically ankle deep, and then red, which to qualify for that, you got to swim 25 yards out and back, and that's it. And then to qualify for blue,
it's a more rigorous test.
It's like 100 yards or 200 yards plus treading water, and he finally got that. And he was just grinning ear to ear,
lived at the
psyched, and then and then he got so then he could do the paddle boarding and all the other things that
it opens the door to a lot of other stuff.
Right, gets to go on the Saturn, you know, the big blow up thing in the middle of the pond. So,
but you know, what we do is we support the work that troops do year round, right? So, you know, summer camp is just 1 week of a Scout troop's year round, you know, work, and that's the work that you guys do to make sure that there's troops and there's programs, and, you know, we hope that kids leave camp and are energized for the fall, and they, you know, have their friends join the troop.
One of the things that kind of gets overlooked is the camp environment creates a different dynamic. So from a staff perspective, there's stresses that teenage kids never get unless they're at a camp program. So to your point, Pat, about a resume, they're dealing with stuff that they're not going to do at an internship because they're there 24/7 essentially. Likewise, you got Scouts that coming into a troop, they're living in a week at a camp environment. They're going to feel stressors that they're not going to get anywhere else, and they've got to learn how to deal with it. And it's always part of the growth process.
Being away from mom and dad, banana flu. Is that what we call it?
Yeah. We don't use the term homesick. We call it banana flu.
Yeah.
and that's hard sometimes in mom and dad.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's the goodbyes, right? And there's a part about, like, you know, being responsible for yourself and independence that, you know, particularly post-COVID is not taken for granted with a lot of Scouts.
And that's the part of the brilliant of the scouting program is the resilience it builds. It's not just life skills, or not just skills about how to tie a knot, but it's life skills about how to manage your existence after scouting.
Right. Yeah. Anything with, like, personal resolve and problem solving. Like
having to serve as a waiter for your troop. Tables of 10 in the dining hall.
Oh, yeah.
Up and clean up after. You know, that's a skill, right?
Yeah.
Served you well.
It did. You know, I went to little tangent, but I went to my undergrad is mountain recreation management. Really weird undergrad degree. I know it's different. And Scouts prepared me so much for that. Like we did 10-day trips in the backcountry, solo trips in the backcountry, and things that I definitely would have been freaking out about as a college student. But no, I had that experience because I did it in 6th grade. You know what I mean? So it was cool, very useful, and it's beyond just the outdoor skills. It's the leadership.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the public speaking, all those things that you just don't learn in school.
Right.
So
Yeah, the huge one right there is communication, especially, we don't, for our troop, we don't really let them have the phones, and there's very little electronics. There's not much service there, as far as, cell
But
reception.
even looking at if you compare a youth that's not in Scout versus a Scout, if that's 9 times out of 10, you're talking to a Scout, the Scout's going to look in the eye, have a conversation with an adult regardless. A youth that hasn't had that interaction with adults is looking down, is not engaging that adult. And you can always tell when that youth person has had some experience with adults. And that's part of the program of Scouting, is that adult association.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot with rank and respect, and you get up, you have to make your bed, and
and nobody's going to drag you over the finish line too.
Yeah,
you gotta,
right.
You gotta want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. The whole keeping your bunk clean and everything.
Yeah.
And they get inspections, and someone forgets a gum wrapper, and the whole troop.
Everybody else is mad at you.
Yeah,
It's accountability built into it.
yeah.
I learned how to clean my room that way. Like coming back home, I just was able to clean so much better all of a sudden, because I was cleaning my bunk.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, and keeping your luggage organized. That's another one where you put the bathing suit at the bottom. Well, you need that every day, and then pull it out. Everything goes out.
The other interesting thing, and when we have new folks who are joining kind of the camp administration, a lot of them have worked their way up, and we're doing our orientation before they get there. As I'm constantly telling them, we're going to be the first job for 30 kids this summer. Young people that they've never, when you're 15, 16, even 17 years old, you may not have had another job.
Right.
And so to have them come into the environment and say, all right, here's what we expect of you. Here's how you're evaluated and all this stuff for a lot of scouts now turn staff members, employees. That's a first for them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I always joke, there's very few other places that you're constantly training the first step of the workforce that you're going to be in for life.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
and it's sometimes it's hard for kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's malarkey.
That's no malarkey or buffoonery. Those are my things. But your son Tyler worked in camp staff
he had a tough time at parts of his life, and camp was a big part of his getting through his toughness, and he's a lot better off now than he was because of his camp experience.
He was a good staff member too.
Yeah. Well, don't tell him that.
This isn't on the internet.
He's gonna watch this.
We're not gonna talk about your time on camp staff. So I talk about the late '90s. He was in the dim ages in the late '80s.
So I worked in '85 as a archery director for a year, and our camp director at the time had an issue, and I came back a couple years later, worked as the health lodge officer for a year, and then as a business manager and assistant camp director. And speaking of malarkey or buffoonery, about halfway through a season, I walked out and said I had enough. And then my first time back on property, I walked into Pat's office and said, hadn't been here in 18 years or something.
Wow. So can you kind of go through, so we have Troop 44 and we have troops all around, and then above that would be district?
Yeah, so the way the scouting organization is structured is the unit is the primary level, right? So you have a pack for Cub Scouts, which is kindergarten through 5th grade.
Yeah.
Scouts BSA is 6th grade, or I should say 11 and a half to 17 years old, and then there's venture crews above that. And each one of those units is sponsored by a chartering organization. And so that charter organization owns the unit and is responsible for making sure they have a place to meet and has proper leadership and things like that. So above that,
which is commonly like churches and fire departments,
churches, youth
civic organizations,
VFWs, things like that.
Yeah.
So the next kind of important level above that is the council, right? So Connecticut Rivers Council is 127 towns in Connecticut. It's the largest council in Connecticut. There's 4 other councils that are part of Connecticut, but it runs basically from the northwest corner down to about halfway down the state of Connecticut, and then kind of loops around Waterbury. Waterbury's included in us, but it kind of includes it.
Yeah, like the valley.
The valley's avoided, right? So we don't have Naugatuck Valley, and then basically everything from Hartford east to the state line.
Wow.
So it's a large geographic area. We have about 6,000 youth and about 4,000 adults registered, give or take. So the district is that large, or excuse me, the council is that large, and to manage that, we have districts. So that's kind of the middle manager in between that kind of brings the program to the units. And so districts consist of a geographic area of communities that have troops in those communities, and it could be anywhere from 30 to 50 units in that geographic area. And so in our area here in Connecticut, we are part of the Leaders of the Revolution District.
Right.
There's a Southeastern District, there's a Western District, and a Charter Oak District, which is the capital area. So those districts are artificial in sense, but they provide a means by which to communicate down to units and provide what we call unit service, which is making sure that the unit has the resources to implement the program. And one of those is making camp available and making sure scouts get to camp. And so we try to make sure that that operation is fully manned, and it's always a challenge to get volunteers. The units are struggling with their own volunteers, and we're asking those same people to step up to the next level, or even more, sometimes stepping up to the council level. Scouting is a volunteer-run, professionally supported organization, so we don't have a lot of paid people on staff. And we have a camp staff that gets paid because we need to provide people there to do that, but from a professional staff,
More like a stipend at the end of the day. we're not getting rich.
I didn't get
We're not getting rich.
it cost me bringing donuts.
Yeah.
I've had those donuts. They're good.
Baker's
But-
doesn't plug.
Baker's dozen.
So our staff is, if we have a dozen people paid, that's a lot.
Okay.
And so they're responsible for making sure that the program gets implemented across our council. And then there's approximately 240 councils across the country. And so it kind of has evolved because scouting obviously went through a bankruptcy and there's been some issues there. I won't get into that detail right now, but the moral of the story is that we're kind of on the other side of that. We're all dealing with post-COVID era issues with respect to growth, but we're starting to move in a right direction. And our emphasis right now is recruiting Cub Scouts, right?
Yeah.
If you have a Scouts BSA unit and you don't have any Cub Scouts coming in behind you, then you're not going to exist in the future. So our goal is to get those parents engaged, and it's really recruiting the parents because the kids all want to do what scouting is, right? Everybody
Right.
who doesn't want to have fun outdoors,
Right.
but it's getting parents to understand their kid is going to go off with this group. And at a Cub Scout level, the parents are encouraged and have to be part of it.
Yeah.
You get into the Scouts BSA group, they can step back, and you have adult leaders that take it on. And then even venture crew is even more stepping back from an adult management perspective. So it's just getting parents to understand there's value in it. And yeah, we recognize, and probably talking a third rail here, but we recognize we have some baggage with our history, but we have processes and training and programs in place that virtually eliminate anything that's happened in the past.
Yeah.
And it really, our experience since the mid 80s, late 80s, has been tremendous from a youth safeguarding youth perspective or youth protection perspective. So I don't want to say it's gone completely, but it's certainly not as bad as people think it is based on some of the media results. And
Well, at the end of the day, anytime you're working with youth, right, in a school setting, in this setting, any civic setting, you got to be careful and you got to have safeguards in place.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
And the other piece of it is people have some people just want to dump and run, right? So they bring their kid one night a week, and
It's not daycare.
that's the point.
Yeah.
We want people to engage. There's jobs for everybody in a unit with respect to what their time commitment, availability, and skills, right? So
Right.
you don't want to go camping. Well, we can find a job for you in a unit support role of some sort.
Right.
So there's a lot
Yeah.
of different opportunities out there for parents and families altogether. It is a family-oriented program.
Yeah, and I'll back that. I've only been with Troop 44 4 years now, and
You got a lifetime ahead of you.
yeah. Training to be a leader has been, amazing. It's actually really, there's definitely stuff online, but like I've been in class with you and with John Jenna and a few others, and at your camp I took ASM. No, what's it called?
Scoutmaster specific training.
Yeah, that one.
IOLS.
IOLS.
It's full of
Oh, the
acronyms.
acronyms. Yeah. So.
We have our own language.
And it's so fun. And even when I was taking that course of yours, there was other leaders that have already been through it that still take it again. And you get all these different instructors no matter how many times you take the class, it's going to be different every
Yeah.
time. And then you have your different levels of engagement from everybody else too. So you get a lot more perspective, and there's just so much to do, so much to learn as far as socially and how to run, a scout meeting to, running. Now I'm committee chair as well, already in a second role.
There you go.
Moving on.
It's,
I don't know about up, but
We'll wait for a while before we move on.
yeah, so the committee chair role, again, more training and just a different line of work pretty much through. And when I say work, it's not a lot of work. It's just
fun.
It's fun. You're socializing with adults most of the time, and then also with the scouts, and it's a different kind of caliber of scout or youth, because they're being trained more so than normal kid, really.
Well, and Troop 44 has a long history. I don't know when it was originally founded, but it's one of the oldest. He puts his hand in the scrap. It is one of the oldest troops in the area. And I was talking to one of our volunteers, because we have a small museum at the camp too. It's like a research
I've
library.
walked through it. It's beautiful.
And he was all excited because he collects and catalogs scouting memorabilia. And there's actually a big market, right? You think about stamp collectors or the rare, well, scouting patches and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a whole kind of subculture there. And he had come across a 1947 camporee patch that was held at the Brooklyn Fairgrounds, that he had known about this, but had never actually seen a patch from it. Because the earlier days, memorabilia is not as common.
Yeah.
And he had done his research. It was post-war. It was all the council was getting together from Norwich up, and it was here at the Brooklyn Fairgrounds
Nice.
in 1940.
Wow.
So it was really neat to kind of see him talk about that.
Now, camporee, that's
It's like
when,
a weekend camping.
yeah, that's like when a huge amount of scouts from all over come. And
Is this that event?
No.
Is this a
So, so this scrapbook, again, we're talking about scouting and the connections with people and the Brooklyn Fair and our barbecue, right? So Troop 44 has been doing the barbecue at the Brooklyn Fair for at least the 60s. I don't know an exact start date.
wow.
My first interaction was probably 1978. And at that time, I could tell you stories. We used to sleep at the fairgrounds on the picnic tables to guard all the equipment and all sorts of stuff. But
wow.
For the chicken vandals?
it's, well,
That's awesome.
there's other stories, right?
Well, there's a secret recipe
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It wasn't.
I gotta protect
it's
it.
more secret than it is now, because I won't go down that path. So one of my first scout masters was a guy by the name of Bob Trahan.
Okay.
So fast forward to probably 10 years ago at the Brooklyn Fair. I hadn't seen Bob Trahan in 30 years or so. He comes walking up to me and hands me this scrapbook. And I'll go into the other stuff. But one of the things in this is, and so backtrack to the troop t-shirts, the old, not this version, because that's the updated one. But the back of it, we had established 1949 as Troop 44. Well, if you read this application for charter for a new troop, Brooklyn Grange, number 43, Brooklyn, Connecticut, dated August 27th, 1935. And
Wow.
so and it lists all the people that were involved at that point, and it's got a roster of all the scouts that were joining. But essentially what happened was the troop started in 35, but kind of dissolved a little bit right during World War II and got fired back up in 1949.
Oh wow.
So this is one of those things like, this came out of nowhere, and I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
this is amazing. So, and then this entire scrapbook is actually quite impressive. Turn it around so you guys can.
Where did he get this? Or he just had it?
He had it. I don't know where he got
Wow.
it from, but so the first National Jamboree was scheduled for 1935. It was canceled because of a polio epidemic.
Oh my.
So
Like
this-
a week before.
Yeah, it was like
FDR
they were
canceled, yeah.
kids were coming across the country via train to Washington D.C. and they had to turn the trains around.
Wow.
This is one of the patch from that jamboree.
Wow.
It is virtually impossible to obtain.
Wow.
So to his point about memorabilia, that's some value right there.
It
If you
looks like
hold
it's glued under a piece of.
Yeah. You can hold it up for the camera right here
Yeah.
if you wanted to. There you go. Yeah, look at that.
Looks better than me.
Yeah.
So some of the other points of this is this had a roster of all the scouts that were planning to go to the Jamboree into 1935. Wow. And then there's news articles about what happened because they had to do a substitute trip.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
didn't they go to Camp Waukena?
Yes.
With the New London group, right?
Yep. That's all
Which was in Salem.
Yep.
Which incidentally, Camp Waukena, it's now closed. But when I was a Cub Scout, I got on a bus at the Brooklyn Town Hall, and the bus went to Camp Waukena every day for Cub Scout Day Camp because that was the closest Cub Scout Day Camp.
And
That's a drive.
Wow.
There's reference to a camp we shall not name.
Yeah, in Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island, yeah.
Is that your competitor?
We don't mention.
So there's a long article in here about what they did for an alternative camp, and then there's different certificates for advancement for different people. At this point, adults could get advancement in Scouting BSA, so you could be up until the mid 60s. I think you could be an adult as an Eagle Scout or an Eagle Scout. So this,
Wow.
Oh,
this is
wow.
the Scoutmaster earning different rank advancements, different merit badge requirement or achievements. And then as we get through this, kind of fast forward, there are a bunch of pictures. Where'd they go? About the camporee you were just referencing.
Oh, where they ended up?
Yeah, in
not,
Salem.
not in DC.
Yeah,
but-
in Gardner Lake.
These are June 36, so these are prior to that. Yeah, there's a picture of Troop 44's flag.
Nice.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Huh.
That's
Early 30s
Yeah,
or mid 30s.
jeez.
that's wild. A lot of history.
Those camporees are the best.
A lot of.
Or
tradition.
what's a? I remember jamborees too.
Oh, okay.
There's
so
a
that was the
difference
other thing I
between-
was kinda
So,
thinking
Camp-
of.
so yeah, camporee is kind of a district event, and then you have
More geographic, like everybody in the county
Okay.
get together.
yeah, and then you have we have scout shows, which are council-wide events.
Okay.
And I think you might have gone to one in Hebron.
Yeah, I
Hebron Fairgrounds.
probably. I remember all of those. Those
Yeah.
were awesome.
And then on top of that are national jamborees,
Okay.
which are where everybody that's
Distinctly different from a Klondike Derby.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard it's like
You
it's like
learn a lot as
city.
a youth at a Klondike Derby about staying warm.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those usually happen in February,
Yeah,
right?
January, February.
January,
It was the one I remember. It was very wet. It was at Webster. You know, I was probably 11, 12 years old, and I put my boots outside of the tent because you know keep the mud outside. And then overnight it froze, and I get up in the morning and I could not remove my boots from the frozen mud.
Wow.
Like the scoutmaster had to come help me and chisel them out. Like you know,
My son was always upset because the Klondike was on the weekend of his birthday.
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so he went on his birthday.
Yeah.
That's a great present.
Yeah, no, not
Yeah, but if you want
Some.
to teach your kid hardiness, that
Oh, that does
is
it.
where you
That
send
does it.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to teach a scoutmaster Hardy? I had a scout. I wasn't sure if it was a Klondike or maybe it was a Klondike, but we woke up on a Sunday morning and we were sleeping in Site 5A, which is the
Right off the parking lot.
handicap site, and so it's a concrete pad. And we were sleeping on top of the snow, on top of the concrete pad.
Oh,
which is still a heat sink, right?
Yeah.
Wake up on a Sunday morning and I'm missing a scout, a couple scouts.
Oh,
Don't
my.
know what happened to him. It was minus.
Good job, scoutmaster.
It was minus 4 degrees, and moral of the story is the scout was taken up by 2 other scouts to the dining hall because his feet were so cold because his boots froze.
Wow.
And yeah, waking up at minus 4 in the middle of winter is
With a missing scout or a
Yeah.
missing couple of scouts. That's scary.
yeah. It's an
Yeah, I was told you're not really supposed to sleep to monitor it overnight.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why we drink so much coffee. We're the coffee patrol, us
Yeah.
leaders in Troop 44.
But you freeze on one Klondike Derby. You don't let it happen again. So that's the learning experience, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it is sometimes tough to, have all the equipment, the gear and everything. And that's another skill, like packing for the different weather requirements, when it's going to be hot or when it's going to be cold.
My first Klondike was at Webster, in a large military tent where the current Perry building is. There was probably 25 of us, give or take, and it was a large single tent with all of us sleeping in the same tent, same
Like
space.
a military style.
But they had brought in bales of hay, so we just had hay spread around the whole area, and we're sleeping on top of hay.
Works for the horses.
I was going to
Yeah.
say, that's really warm, isn't it?
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, that wasn't my first camp out. The first camp out I went on, we got flooded out, but that's one other story.
Hey, I remember being on a winter camping trip, and they had one bale of hay in the tent with us, and we were all t-shirt and
Wow.
shorts
Yeah.
playing cards on the bale of hay, and that
That's
was
awesome.
like keeping us all warm, body heat plus the bale of hay. I couldn't believe how much energy or how much warmth you get
BTU would absorb.
from the bale of hay. That was pretty wild.
What's
So,
nice is the troops have their own resources to sort of like level the playing field, right? Like I don't think we provide sleeping bags, right? But sleeping pads, the tents, like it's all good equipment, and you don't want somebody who has like all this fancy equipment that's in your troop just chilling and they're nice and toasty and you're freezing cold because all you have is a blanket. Like the troop has resources, which so every kind of gets everybody together in a
yeah, we definitely have a shed full of stuff.
That's
and
actually the barn. The shed.
the barn. Sorry, yeah, the shed's at the fairgrounds, which we will all be at the fairgrounds shed making
coming
barbecue
up.
chicken for everybody.
Yeah.
Thursday through Sunday, I'll be there. John, Jenna will be there. We'll be cooking our butts off with the rest of the leaders and the families, taking shifts. So get out there and have your one healthy meal that the fair
Not a
serves.
corn dog.
yeah.
It's the best deal on a fairground.
Yeah.
It is. When did that tradition start? I mean, as far as I could ever remember.
Well, like I said, it started sometime in the '60s. There was a gentleman named Arnie Arnio who lived up in on Stetson Road. I think Stetson Road. But long story short, I reconnected with him via Facebook and the fair a couple years ago, and he told me he could only remember starting sometime in the '60s. So again, there's the Boy Scout Pavilion, and then there's the new shed that we built next to it, and then the barbecue pit is a structure that was shared between the Boy Scouts and Mortlake Fire Company. But it's been going on for that long, and it was great when when the fair used to have a horse race
the track. I remember the track.
Yeah.
So right across where the concession office is now, and where the Mortlake Fire Company medical building is, used to be the horse pull and oxen pull ring. And so I have pictures at home of John Cody going out and selling dinners on trays to people sitting and standing at the horse pulling area or the pulling ring, as well as they used to block the track off when they had races, and so people would stack up.
And you were stuck either on the inside or the outside.
Exactly,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember
and
that.
it was a captive audience, so he's hawking chicken dinners
Yeah,
to people waiting in
Right.
line.
Well, you mentioned John Cody. We were talking before we went on the air about. I mean, the one thing, being a Plainfield guy, Troop 44 always had these cast of characters that were just longtime scouters. You know, John Cody. You know, you did not become an Eagle Scout in northeastern Connecticut unless you sat in a board review with John Cody and Ted Neatlick, right? You did.
I did. Yeah.
I did. You know.
Wow.
And you know they were both Brooklyn guys through and through. You know, Chuck Thurlow, a guy who
My first Scoutmaster and Cubmaster.
yeah, very involved in the camp. You know, was a Troop 44 guy forever. And even, the founding of the camp, the volunteer who led the entire effort to build the camp in Ashford and grow out of the Camp Quinnebog, which was in Preston, not the one that's in Killingley, was a guy by the name of Harold Barnes. And Harold Barnes is well renowned in Brooklyn. His name's on the side of the fire truck. His picture's on the wall in the library.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know Harold was involved in scouting until I saw this stuff up at
Oh,
camp.
really? And I didn't know he was involved in all the stuff. So I'm doing a training at Mortlake Firehouse, and I'm looking at
Wow.
the commissioning plaque on the old host. Is it the host tender?
Yeah, the host tender.
And it says design committee
board.
chairman Harold D. Barnes.
Yeah, so Harold was the chairman of the board of directors for the Mortlake Fire Company for a long time. And when I joined the fire company in 1982, he was the guy that would always report on what the finances were, and very brief. And interaction with Harold was always an interesting dynamic, right? He's an older guy. He used to work for the phone company.
He's a gentleman, though, right?
Yes, and that's my point. Is he was very, very, I don't know how to describe him.
Procedural?
Gentleman's very
Formal. And
formal, respectful,
Yeah.
and
He had a pipe in every
always had a
picture.
pipe in his mouth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so that was and that was comforting to me because my father always had a pipe in his mouth. So that was interesting. But so yeah, I would deal with Harold. And at the time we had to pay our dues at the fire company. You had to pay $2 every year to join or to be a member, and he would be hounding us for dues. And we'd also have to do an annual inventory. And so he'd be having these big dot matrix printer spreadsheet things, and we'd have to use that to do an inventory. And he was in charge of all that. So then, few years later, I see Harold Barnes on a picture at
Yeah.
camp, and I'm like, oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, no, he was as instrumental as anybody in the founding of the camp. But I even think to today, Jane Sipla
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah.
Jane has been involved in scouting, and for probably, I think they came to Connecticut and George and Jane in the early '90s, right?
Yes, so I was
And-
I was scoutmaster when they returned to Connecticut when I was in college, and their youngest son was in the troop.
Yeah.
So
And-
I always.
But Jane was the BB gun instructor when I was a kid in Cub Scouts, and
I think
to
she
this,
still was
to
when
this-
I was a kid.
to this day, she is still involved.
Yeah.
Wow.
Her and her
Wow.
husband, worked at camp forever. George was the shooting sports director. Jane was the archery director. She's titled the archery director emeritus now, emerita. She can come and go. But there's some
Wow.
there's some folks from this town that
Right.
have been very
Yeah.
influential in shaping scouting in Eastern Connecticut for a long time.
And a lot of them are honored on Chapel Island.
Yeah.
There's a pavilion.
okay.
It's called
Colloquially called.
John and Ted's Excellent Pavilion for John Cody and Ted Niadlik.
Yeah.
Ted Niadlik, as referenced earlier, was the yin to Cody's yang, an old Polish gentleman who worked at Prim, but
Lived
also
on Day Street.
lived on Day Street, also a World War II veteran. But he was always the calm, quiet, the gentleman who would take you aside and have a conversation where Cody would be the one.
The boisterous, booming Navy chief.
Yeah.
Nice.
And every generation of scouts had a different nickname for John Cody. And ours, when I was a youth, he was the bear, the old bear.
Yeah.
So he was a character. But there's Ted Niadlik, there's John Cody, there's I'm not going to remember everybody's name. So Dick Harrison was another guy who was a longtime committee chair. Used to own Bonneville's Pharmacy.
Oh, okay. I feel like you have that dynamic in most leaderships where there's one that's very take charge, boisterous, and then you have the one that's a little bit more calm, collective, that kind of thing.
And you referenced being the committee chair now. You guys, the meetings of this committee are nothing compared to what they used to be. So when I was an assistant scout or a senior patrol leader and a scoutmaster, I would go to the committee meetings, and my father was very involved in the committee level and ended up being involved in district level as well. But those committee meetings were raucous. They would start at 7 o'clock, and there were times it would not end until after midnight.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Wow.
Is that recipe for the chicken?
It was Niadlik.
Well, they used to put a beer in.
It was
Beer
Niadlik.
garden was the other side of the oxygen.
Niadlik and Cody were going at each other about stuff in these meetings. We'd be sitting around a pool table at Dick Harrison's house.
Yeah, well, even small. My 11th grade math teacher at Plainfield High School, Paul Adams,
Okay.
was scoutmaster in
Scout.
Troop 44 at
Such
one
a
point.
small world.
I think it came up, I mean, it's on a Friday. I was leaving early, handed in a test or something. I'm going camping with the troop, and he's like, "Oh, I used to be scoutmaster in Brooklyn."
His dad
So-
was on the committee. He was a scoutmaster. He was my first introduction, not my first but my best memory of Paul Adams was we had a troop meeting, and for whatever reason, we had some sort of party going. I don't know if it was Halloween or not, because we used to do a Halloween party. We used to do bobbing for apples and stuff. But Paul had a small band, and he played drums and sang. And so I have this vivid memory of Paul up on the stage in the Brooklyn Elementary School with his band singing, I think it was The Weight by the band.
Wow. And the memories stick with you forever. You know what I mean? I know I've already had some with my
as you
son.
age, they kind of fade. But
Well, I just mean like with my son, especially, this past time when we were just in July when he got his blue, his swimmer's badge. It was just like, it was just this big. And then the first year I was there with him, because he did the partial week the year before without me, and I was kind of a push off, like, you can do 3 days without me and
the
without mom.
the Weeblos camp.
Yeah, and then we did a full week, and he was shooting a BB gun, and that was like a big thing to get bullseyes and get the little beads and stuff as a reward and stuff. And it's just like that stuff just sticks with you, and he'll still bring it up once in a while, like, hey, remember when, and that's to me, Scouts is a vehicle to spend more time with your kids in a way that it's with purpose, and productive, and like the schedule at camp. I mean,
he's still spending time with his dad.
Yeah, I know. My father volunteers all the time.
Oh, really? Okay. I haven't met him.
Oh, yeah. He comes up and he's taken on the mantra of the tree warden. So
Oh,
He's always done chainsaw stuff, so he's in the
Okay.
he leads a group of people, some of which are people who were scouts with me in Plainfield when we were kids that are not involved now, but we've all stayed connected, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
this organization does, and they'll come up and take down widowmakers and trees and kind of
Yeah.
get that stuff in order. So
Nice.
wow.
Nice. Yeah, it's a pretty well groomed forest. When you're looking for firewood, there's not much.
Yeah.
so what's your biggest memory from your?
I think I always had a good time fishing. I don't know. I fishing and the waterfront was like my go-tos at JN Webster. But in Scouts in general or JN Webster?
Yeah, both.
Scouts in general, my biggest memory was mountain biking, and you were on that mountain bike trip.
Up behind Killing
And I said, I'm gonna lead the troop. This is one of those things where the boy, it's like I'm
Youth-led?
gonna do something. And
scout-led.
so it was a terrible thing though. Like I took the entire troop or anybody with a bike, not even mountain bikes, BMX bikes, anything, through trails that weren't mountain bike trails. They were like for four-wheeling trails, they were homeless camps back there.
Yeah, it was up behind Killing a High School.
Killing the high school. Yeah, it just wasn't good.
There was I believe there was a wasp nest.
There was
involved.
and somebody ran over a thing of bees. It was
Oh man.
but those are like those are the memories though.
Yeah.
Like you just remember those things and they stick with you and yeah, it was always fun.
But to that point, because it's youth led, especially at the troop level, where we're kind of like guardrails for them,
Exactly.
but they plan their
Yes.
own campouts. They plan what activities they're going to do, what badges they're going to work on, what ranks they're going to work on, and
Yeah, my mantra was I just don't want to do any paperwork.
yeah,
Which is-
The patrol boxes, those are like right there. Like you have these. I don't know if they're the same ones now.
They are. Those were
When-
built in the 70s by Lenny Business.
You still using them? Wow. So these just wooden boxes. They're big.
Your kitchens.
Yeah,
it
and
takes
it's
three or four small scouts to operate.
Yeah,
bring them
and-
out and operate 'em.
And you have to learn to cook your meals
Yep.
and plan your meals too to figure out what you need to buy. What needs to be bought at the grocery store
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's elected
On a budget.
master.
on a
On a
budget.
budget.
On a
Budget.
budget.
Right.
Yeah.
So take that back to a person who's not in Scouts, right? Somebody wants to they want to make dinner. Well,
Yeah.
how do you want to make? What do you want for dinner?
Right.
How do you purchase how do you decide what it is? You got to purchase the food. How do you get the money? What budget do you have?
Yeah.
So these are all skills
Yeah.
that are taught in Scouts.
Yeah, there is no other place that I can find that to this level of leadership and life skills that you get in Scouts. And that's, I know there's a lot of options for kids these days, and there's some
Yeah.
really good ones and laudable ones out there. But to the folks like you that keep the troops running, right? Because troops don't operate without adults to provide those guardrails, which is
Yep.
like the best, kids who are in the scouting program now will be served well for life by it.
Yeah,
I've seen
right.
it, myself, and troops are getting. There's not as many of them. Probably Brooklyn at one time had more than one troop. I know Plainfield had 4 or 5 at one point.
Oh wow.
And there's it's down to one. And having access to those things and enrolling. So if there's a parent who's kind of on the fence about it, there is just it's part choose your own adventure. It's part you got to work with a team.
Right.
And parental involvement to whatever your skill set is
Right.
welcome, right?
Yeah,
If you
Right.
want to
yeah.
be
For sure.
gung ho, jump in and do everything, great.
Right.
But if you want to, I'm not a camping type, but I'll help.
Yeah.
I'll help organize the fair. Like you need that too.
Right.
Yeah.
And really good troop committees have a cross section of people that all pitch in and make it all work,
sure.
so it's not onerous.
Yeah.
One or two people, but
Yeah. Yeah. And to the other, talking about access, there's money involved and, we got to pay dues and stuff, but money should, we have that saying like money should never be
the barrier.
So we have fundraisers and we have scholarships, scholarships to your camp,
Camperships, yeah.
camperships. So there's always something, if I really want to join, but I don't know if we have the money.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna get you in. There's
big-
gonna be
Yeah.
a resource. There's gonna be a way to get you in and get you to summer camp.
Yeah.
That's always a big
Well, and
thing.
the beauty of an organization like this that has a lot of alumni
Right.
is a lot of them will reach out to me and say, hey, if you got a kid that can't come to camp for financial reasons, just call me up.
Right.
And I've done that.
Yeah.
Beyond the normal campership program.
Right.
And people are happy to write a check because they benefited from the.
Right,
They know.
right.
They
Yeah.
know what
Oh,
the
yeah.
product. It's not like you're
Yeah.
giving in to an unknown.
And to that point about the fair, right? So it's the troop's largest fundraiser,
Mm-hmm.
but our troop. So if a scout is in a non-troop 44 troop, they have to pay a joining fee. They have to pay if the troop goes on a district event. There's a registration fee associated with that. Then the scout has to pay for food, and then there's obviously other expenses if they want to go to camp. What was your camp fee this past year?
$550.
And that really is low compared to other camps.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the point is, the money that we raise during the fair is used to help subsidize those costs. So for Troop 44, you never had to pay a registration fee, Jordan, when you had to go to a camp out or a camporee. Right?
I don't think no.
We never charged for that.
Right.
The troop paid for that. There's always a $15 fee or whatever just per scout to
Yeah,
go to the event.
yeah.
Never charged that. The troop also subsidizes a certain amount of money for camp, as you said, camperships. In addition to the fact that if there's a true need with somebody, it's a one-on-one conversation with the family and the scoutmaster or the committee chair, and we'll just cover the cost or 100% or whatever it takes to get that one scout. But we don't advertise who
You
it
just
is.
did. Oh, who
Well,
it
we
is.
advertise.
Yeah.
We advertise it's available. but
Right,
It's got to be
yeah.
a conversation before it's just granted, right?
Right.
They don't stand up and say Sparky's a scholarship kid.
Everything's confidential in that regard, and also,
Right, for sure.
we provide T-shirts, and there's a whole lot of. You need money to make the world go round, so there's some costs associated. But this fundraising event eliminates the out-of-pocket expense on a monthly basis for a lot of families. Yes, your family still has to pay for food. Everybody's got to eat,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, there's a lot of fees that are being covered by this fundraising event, and it's critical to the organization.
Yeah. And I'm certainly not the number person or the treasurer, and probably never will be the treasurer. But like we went to the scouts got to go to Herkimer, and that was like down to like $30 per scout, I think, by the end of it, and 15 of that was food. Like
Wow.
I did a trip when I was Scoutmaster to Gettysburg, and I think because you want some commitment, some skin in the game, and I think by the time the scout fee or individual participant fee was down to like $70 because the troop committed.
That was
Right.
only that was if there was a good memory, maybe it was that one. That Gettysburg trip, and to think that was under $100
Yeah.
for what we
That's
did,
crazy.
and like all the things that I learned history-wise on that trip. Yeah, that's awesome.
And when we come up with a special, so not this summer, but this last summer, we went on a whitewater rafting trip up in Maine, and we had 3 car washes down here at Advanced Auto Parts, and if your scout went to all 3 of them, they were on Sundays, I think, or Saturdays. If you went to all 3 of them, that whitewater rafting trip, that was 3 days, twice up down the river, and I mean it's normally in the 600s, I think, per person. And
Easily, yeah.
if you went to all 3 of them, it was like $20. It was literally
Right.
just
So the
that
troop
inexpensive.
subsidizes based on these fundraisers,
Right.
but also there's opportunities for scouts to earn money towards the fees,
Right.
costs of things. So, yeah,
Right.
It's
So
again, it's all life skills. It takes money to do stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really helpful when some of our parents have 2 scouts in there, and if they're both going on the same trip, and the parents going on the same trip too, because they're a leader, it's like then can be a heavy burden, financially. So to have those opportunities to make money for it, it's really just. Again, money should never be the issue.
And
why scouts
we're at the
go.
council level are a similar opinion, right? So we have a campership program at the council level, and we have a program that we started this last year called Camp for All. So I don't know if you want to address that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's under the premise that every kid that wants to go to camp should have the opportunity to do so, and we don't always do a great job of asking for money. We have a lot of great corporate sponsors in the state. Stanley Black & Decker comes to mind, a Connecticut-based company out of New Britain who's put close to $1 million into the facility at Webster.
Wow.
Don Allen, who's just now stepping down as the CEO, is an Eagle Scout, spends time in Woodstock, and that company, trying to be a good corporate citizen, gives a lot of money to youth services and the facilities. And there's a number of other companies here that give money, and we've tried to formalize the ask under a Camp for All. And everything from individuals and alumni donating to small businesses to big corporate stewards and foundations. And it's been pretty successful this past year since we launched it back in January. So.
And we have a committee at the council level that reviews all the campership applications from across the council and
For need, yeah.
based on need and the funds that are generated through this Camp for All feed into that. And it grew significantly this past year, and we expect it to grow even more next year. But to the point, there's always an opportunity for people to donate, but also, as we discussed, it should never be a barrier for a scout to participating in camp.
Yeah, it's a really great thing, and like you mentioned, there's a CEO that happened to be an Eagle Scout. Well,
there's a lot of
I think that's kind of like a general thing. Eagle Scouts, or even just people that have been in scouting, tend to be more independent, go a little further with things.
Obviously, a little personal note: my mother passed away on July 4th, but we were having a conversation 3 weeks before that, and she said, "Well, if I hadn't made you get your Eagle Scout, you wouldn't be doing all this stuff."
Wow.
Good for your mother.
Yeah. Behind every Eagle Scout's a mother kicking.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the mother pins the badge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not. That wasn't an accident. So.
Yeah.
How's technology usage now, like with Scouts? Because, like, my biggest thing, and I advocate for this nowadays, is just the disconnect we have with like nature, right? With technology and the phones and distractions, and especially for the younger generation now. How is that? Kind of going.
So that's kind of the education world's having that debate right now. And,
Yeah.
I think scouting is trying to teach the technology to be a tool when appropriate.
Yep.
Right. Not to just be reliable on it. We were joking about AI earlier, right?
Yeah.
Technology is going to continue to evolve. There's some things that we can do in camp now that we couldn't do before because of the technology piece.
Right.
We have a whole kind of robotics lab and the STEM stuff. Just that wasn't part of the deal. But that's not all of what you do, because you can go into a school or a university in July and do STEM. So how do you then bring that to the outdoors and in a unique setting? So like rocketry and that type of stuff. So you do space exploration where you're looking at the stars with astronomy.
Yeah.
And you're building the rockets and
Yep.
and to try to teach it as a tool. And part of the teaching it as a tool is it shouldn't just always be in your hand, right?
Yeah.
So it's time to put it away. It's time to put it away.
Well, even the camp overall has a nice balance of it, where the newer building has Wi-Fi for us adults to use for when we got to work or shoot off emails and stuff like that. And then the safety aspect, all the alerts that we get for weather, missing kids, anything like that. Which you guys, we almost never have a missing kid.
Yeah.
We've never had anyone drowned at the waterfront, because it's always the buddy system, right?
Yep.
Right.
And knock on wood for sure. But we just have so many fail safes. But the technology that's been implemented is
well,
huge.
and we use
for,
it. When
for
I
more
started,
safety.
it makes me feel old. Back in the 90s, we didn't really have radios. We didn't have cell phones, and AOL dial-up wasn't around yet.
Right.
At least
right.
wasn't. So we had none of those things. And so, now to be able to, as a camp, to leverage those for health and safety, for that type of thing has been huge. But the debate in schools tends to be, and I don't want to necessarily go down this path, but either you have your phones or you don't. Well, guess what? It's a gray area. It's a middle ground. Like, phones aren't going away.
Yeah.
And they're tools, and they have to be, proper etiquette.
Right. It's
Needs to be taught,
But-
and
but-
scouting is a good place to do that.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you're outdoors. Your focus is on the outdoors, right? But to contrast that with the fact that we do have tools that are used as an adult and a parent
Yeah.
for rank advancement, right? So I'm a merit badge counselor as well. I do everything online. There's no more blue. I don't use a blue card anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we have tools that are online, and it just makes it streamlines it. The challenge there is you got some people that just will bypass the merit badge process and just sign off online, but that's a whole nother issue. Contrast that with if you go to a national jamboree, you have to have a phone because everything is communicated via an app.
It's an app.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's scouting has done an okay job of integrating it. Yes, we are, the system is kludgy sometimes, and we're we're not an IT organization,
Right.
but it has improved the experience for
Good.
a lot of people. So
Good.
we're moving in that direction. And the farther we get from the COVID era, the more people will be used to that system and process and be moving.
Well, and you know, we have simple things like we still do sit down, formal, family style dinners with a host waiter system where
Yep.
Right,
scouted each troop sits at a series of tables, 10 people there, you know,
Yeah.
one leader, staff member, the campers,
Yeah.
and there's a rule: no phones at the dinner table,
Yeah.
right? That may not be the rule at home,
Right.
you know, but on the flip side, there's an app that we encourage kids in the nature program to use to be able to help identify things in the woods.
Nice.
You know,
Yeah.
plant identification. You know, you look at the app to compare: is that poison ivy or is that, you know, strawberries? You know,
Right.
and so, you know, the etiquette piece is huge for us, and
Yeah.
each troop kind of
Yeah.
has their own policies and stuff. But we've tried to find that balance.
Good.
Yeah, and I would say it's definitely it's great with that balance because it goes downhill. You know what I mean? Where they see the staff using it with a balance, and you know that's their example. You know, so it's not like, I don't know, you might go into some cafe or something that's all screens everywhere. You know what I mean?
Nobody
It's like-
talking to each other.
Yeah, nobody
Yeah.
talking to each other, and that's, you know, there's probably a time and a place for that, but it's
Yeah.
my personal hell. But it's just like, but yeah, to be out in the woods and only have like one leader with a phone just in case something happens, but otherwise we're cut off for the weekend. You know, that's kind of that's a really cool aspect that not many kids will have.
Sure.
One of the things I wanted to mention with respect to JNW Webster, so part of the Scouting America program has an accreditation process, right? So every camp is inspected based on national camp standards set by Scouting America. And I've gone around to other camps. We can't assess our own camps, but I've gone around to other camps in the area. And what I've learned is I've been to camps up in the Adirondacks, out in the Catskills, in Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. Jane Webster is really a fantastic property, and I think we alluded to earlier, it's always evolving. There's new stuff being implemented on a regular basis. It's not stale. There are traditions, like the mashed potato thing, which I don't quite get, but that's another story.
Neither do I.
Oh, you get it. But I'm trying to keep it PG, but we are actually a really good program and a good property and a good camp. And a lot of it is credit to him because of his expertise or his persistence in driving for excellence, right? Back in the 90s, that property was almost sold.
Oh wow.
It
And the
was
efforts
under enrolled. It was
nobody was going in there, and the councils had merged, and there was a thought they were going to get rid of this piece of junk property in the middle of nowhere that nobody wanted to go to. Well, it is now the jewel of Connecticut Rivers Council.
Yeah.
I won't say who, there might be some people who disagree with that, but at the end of the day, they're not here.
Not in the listening audience.
Well, I'll say it's the only scout camp I've ever been on. I was always blown away. Like I said, my first week there, I was just wide-eyed the whole time of how beautiful it was. And I mean, you can't find an Airbnb that beautiful to stay there for a week for under 600.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we're
Food
looking to
included.
expand that.
Food included.
Well,
yeah.
and I take a little pride in the fact that, when there was that tragedy in Texas, right, and there was a lot of focus on camps, the media was calling us to find out the Connecticut perspective in the city, and I think that's a compliment, to kind of the reputation,
Right.
and all that, and then you get the scoutmaster in the street, put the microphone in her face.
Yeah. I was interviewed, and most of what I said was cut off. So
I remember back in '85 when I was on staff, and the camp director then was a gentleman by the name of Lou DeZilo, who a great guy, school teacher out of Sterling, but his whole focus was on customer service, and that's his focus, is meeting the needs of the customers. Pat's done a great job of inculcating that in his staff, so the people know how to interact. They're not there just for a job; they're there to serve the customer, and I think that's great.
yeah.
It's an important skill.
Yeah, that's my whole business is
Yeah,
customer
yeah.
service, and I love the art form that it is of serving your customers as best you can.
Well, I'll give a shout out because Krisha Harlow has been a longtime member of the camp staff, Brooklyn resident.
Yeah.
Has been a member of the program director team for the last 3 or 4 years, and she's somebody who came to camp as a tag along because at that point girls could not participate,
Oh wow.
and then became joint venturing, and her brothers.
I'll tell you my first interaction with her. But
Yeah. But but she joined the program team as kind of the youngest, least experienced person 3 years ago, and is now leader. And now that we are in effect a co-ed program and the campus co-ed, she's a strong role model to a lot of the young ladies that are coming to camp. Just as we all could think about when we were campers, who's the person who's a role model there, and so. A good Brooklyn resident who's doing well in the organization.
Yeah, so my first interaction with Krisha, I think I was district chairman at the time. We used to do visits to camp, to units, and the Cub Scout Pack 44 was in a site, and she was tagging along because her two brothers, or at least her older brother, was in at that time, and how do we get a scout group quiet in Scouts?
Oh, you raise your hand.
Yep.
The sign up, right?
Sign up.
Which I would love to use that in business, but nobody understands.
I used it in a Capitol hearing once, and there was enough Scout alumni in the room.
Good for
Wow.
you. Good for you.
Wow.
Nice.
But Krisha didn't quite understand that. So, in Krisha being Krisha, just stood up and yelled, "Quiet!" I'm like, clearly you haven't bought into the program. But she's evolved.
Right. Yeah, that's even. I mean, we've had parents at meetings, where it's like you're still talking, we can still hear you. And it happens in classrooms now too. Teachers have kind of
They have the wolf, the ears up and mouth closed.
Oh, okay.
My brief elementary school teaching days, some old cub master came up with the ears open, mouth closed. I thought it was a genius.
Yeah, anytime I think of the Scout sign, right? Scout sign, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's been a while, guys. But is the Scout law, the code, and the American,
So
I bet you I could say it all still.
Oath,
But
oath and law.
Oath, law,
Motto.
motto. That's what I'm missing.
Be prepared.
The
Yes.
outdoor code.
Yeah. Outdoor code. Yes.
Now the outdoor code, that's relatively new, right?
That's not really a Scout thing.
Well, it's not a Scout thing originally, and it's relatively new in the sense that it's probably been 20 years or so. But when I was a Scout, it was never required. And so when I first came back as a Scoutmaster, they started saying, "I'm like, what is this? What are you doing?"
Must be a unique Brooklyn thing. I don't hear it anywhere else.
But I made him do it.
yeah. But like, I remember.
That's one starts as an American. Is that
Yeah. In 8th grade, we had to memorize the Gettysburg Address, and like, easy work.
They don't do that anymore.
Oh man.
They allow them to read it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we had to memorize it, and because I memorized this very lengthy Scout oath and
code.
everything, it
Yeah.
was pretty easy. So yeah. But whether or not I can still say the whole thing is to question.
Sorry, we won't test you.
No, I don't want to be tested.
Yeah, and I don't know. You brought these books here. I think
Yeah,
you should
so
at least mention them.
this is a book. It's one of the editions of this handbook for scouting, and these were all given to me by a friend who he and I actually had a double eagle ceremony. We share a birthday. He's the reason I was in the fire company and all sorts of stuff. But these were his father's books, and the gentleman's name was Hartley Field, and so this is Hartley Field's scouting handbook from.
Is that Robert H. Field? Is that
Yes, the Field family.
okay?
Yes.
There's a plaque at the camp. For
Yes.
Robert H. Field.
Wow.
So this is copyrighted 1948. Is this one? This is a Sea Explorer manual. There used to be a bigger emphasis on Sea Scouts and Sea Explorers. This is the predecessor of Sea Scouts, and then this is just
Which is, I wish I was in Sea Scouts as a kid. It's the
That
coolest
is
program.
so cool, huh?
another scouting handbook. And this is a later version that actually would have been late 70s, early 80s. We had moved off of the green shirts to the khaki.
Oscar De La Renta
Oscar De La
shirts.
Renta shirts, yes, that's what it was.
He designed them.
But so these are just interesting books that kind of bring back a lot of memories. And
So did you start with the green, or were you off?
I was on the first shirt I had was the green collarless shirt. I love the collarless piece because you could put a neckerchief on and not worry about it. Now you got the neckerchief and a collar. What do you do? Inside, outside, whatever. Personal, first world problems, I guess.
Tough decisions.
Yeah.
But it just thought I'd share these. And
Yeah.
kinda-
When you join Scouts, you get a handbook, and you can do things, with the Scouts, but you can also take it home and do stuff there.
This is how nerdy I was. This would be my evening reading material sometimes. So it was a lot of life stuff in here that's not just Scouts specific.
Right.
There's a lot of interesting things. It's fun. It's fun to read. Yeah.
And it's evolved. Nowadays we have one that's it's not gender neutral, but it's one geared towards boys, one geared towards girls. So
There's a whole section on the Canadian lynx in here.
I think they may have removed that from this version.
The musk ox.
Yeah.
I had that cologne.
What year is this?
But some of the stuff, the other book that's that people forget about is called I just forgot the name, the Field Book.
The field book was great. I don't know if they still make the field book.
I don't know, but it goes towards what Jordan did with your degree, right? It's all more high adventure, outdoor skill stuff, and how to live in the woods.
It's a survival guide.
Survival
basically.
stuff.
Okay.
A lot of great stuff.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
And now you make Eagle. There's a newer thing that I've just heard about was palms. You make what
So
is that like another rank?
They're
How's
not.
that work?
It's not new. How you earn them has changed. So palms.
I just meant I had just heard of it
Oh,
for the first
new to
time
you.
like this
Okay.
summer.
So to become an Eagle Scout is required at 22 now. Eagle Merit badges. It used to be 21.
21 back in my day.
It was 21. They added that Citizenship Society one. And so for every 5 merit badges beyond required amount, whether it's 21 or 22, you get a different colored palm.
Oh, okay.
And so historically, up until about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, you would get Eagle, and then you would have to do 5 more merit badges. You'd go through a Scoutmaster conference, which I know Jordan remembers all too well.
Yeah. Love those.
That's a whole other conversation. But you would have to go through a full process to get the palm. And then, so for 5, it was, and Boy Scouts or Scouting America does it backwards, right? So for 5, it was gold. For 10, it was silver. And for 15 or 20, whatever, for every 5 after that, it was gold or bronze. So bronze was the highest one you could get.
Wow.
Now, currently, a Scout can earn, as they get Eagle, they get their palms at the same time. So if a Scout earns 35 merit badges and does their Eagle project, they will get their Eagle Award plus whatever palms they've earned.
Yeah.
So it's basically, it literally is a little palm that gets pinned onto the Eagle badge.
Yeah.
The palm is in like Palm Sunday as opposed to
Correct.
Right.
If you look at it closely, it could be a palm.
Yeah,
type.
yeah. I earned 21, and that was it.
I did the bare minimum myself. Although I had John Cody as involved. So.
Yeah.
It's a section of this book on politeness.
Nice.
It's like about chivalry and good manners.
Oh.
I'm sure.
Those Scoutmaster conferences prepared you for like interviews.
So I would tell people 2 things. One is, when I was Scoutmaster, I'd tell parents, look, your son, at the time, obviously it was only boys, your son can be the captain of the rec basketball team and little league team. But if he gets the Eagle Scout, that goes on his resume. The other stuff doesn't.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you go through an Eagle Board review, or go through a board review and a Scoutmaster conference. You've done 12 job interviews by the time you turn 16 or 17 years old.
Yep.
Yeah, that's huge.
And just the ability to interact with people and ask questions and think on your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your experience was positive?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I remember having to like prepare, before the Thursday night meeting at the elementary school, getting all my ducks in a row because I had to present it to you and other people, and so I'd have all these different things if you wanted to rank up. It was an interview, and you had to. I think I used to write a bunch of stuff down in a notebook and like, yeah.
You actually prepared?
Be prepared.
That's the motto.
Right.
That's the motto.
It's the motto.
That's the motto.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting. I can remember my first interview when I applied in the 8th grade to go to Ellis Tech, and they sat us down with, teachers that were part of the recruiting program at Ellis, and it threw me. I was like, I had good grades and good attendance and all the other stuff, but then when I got to that interview as my first one, she asked me a few questions. I like. Oh boy, like, like one of them, what are you going to do for Ellis? And I was like, you kind of taken back. Yeah. So just remembering my first interview, 8th grade, was 13 years old or whatever. I shirt, tie, the whole thing to get ready for it. And you know, if I had been in Scouts, you know, it would have been probably easier. You know what I mean? Just knowing how to talk.
Jordan, do you remember Start, Stop, and Continue?
I don't know.
All
I
right,
mean,
so we would do after every event, camporee or camping trip, we would get all the scouts in a circle and say, "What would you start? What did we do that you would start doing again? What would you stop doing, and what would you continue doing?"
oh yeah,
Different
yeah,
versions of Thorns
yeah,
and Roses, right?
Yes, exactly. Thorns and Roses, or
Yep.
you know,
yeah. I think I remember Thorns and Roses.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's-
yeah.
Is it more of like just like a review of what you just did?
it gives it, and the scout couldn't say the same thing as somebody else, right?
Right,
So
right.
it forces them to do some critical thinking analysis of their experience and be able to articulate something about it that they would improve, discontinue, and or keep doing that was positive.
Right, because the feedback just can't be, I had a lot of fun.
Right.
You had to figure out if there was something that was done that could have been better, right? And so it made you think.
All right, we're gonna have to implement that
Yeah.
back for when we're done with our campouts.
Yeah, Thorns and
that
Roses
stuff.
is a pretty way to say it.
Yeah,
Say
Yeah.
that.
That's because where else as a kid are you challenged to reflect?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
True.
That's a skill in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the youngest age for a scout? Like for beyond Cub Scouts? What's the
10
age?
and a half.
10 and a half. Yeah. Yeah. So at 11 years old, you're already like doing that.
Right.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But they can enter as a tiger when they're 5.
Yeah, so Cub Scouts is the youth entry program, and that's, as I said, it's family commitment. They have to be one-on-one parent and scout, which is kindergarten up through. It's actually lion, tigers, and I forget how many.
There's wolves, there's
Wolves,
bears.
yeah, it's a whole forest and jungle.
You're waiting for it.
And then they have completed 5th grade and 10 and a half or 11 years old. And I think that's been tweaked a little bit lately. I keep losing track, but yeah, so you can be a Scouts BSA member from 11 to 17.
Yeah.
And think about the environment that's putting scouts in, or people that age, right? So you've got 16 and 17-year-olds trying to manage and lead 11 and 12-year-olds. How was that experience for you? Because you were as well.
It was not easy. No. And I remember looking up to those older leaders, and like I remember shout out Canyon Hopkins.
Oh yeah.
Awesome guy. And he's very successful in life now, and he was such a role model to me. There was numerous people like that, and you looked up to them, and I learned so much from them, and they led us, and then you ended up taking over that role because they got older. And it was,
Yeah, in my tenure as Scoutmaster, I didn't have a lot of Eagle Scouts, but I had a lot of kids go through the program.
Yeah.
And Canyon's a great example. He's now a PhD pharmacist in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Another kid, Alex Tedeschi,
Yep.
who has his PhD and works in Massachusetts. My son just is finishing his master's now. He's doing well. He's doing better. Let's put it that way. But these are all, to your point, Jordan. Kids came in. They didn't focus so much on the rank advancement.
Right.
They focused on having fun and learning.
Yeah.
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 Or they were learning without really knowing it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
I
one
can
of
remember.
those
I remember
things.
Canyon's first camp out, a summer camp. The kid was 11 and a half kid. He was 11 and a half, 12 years old, whatever. I think way before you even joined.
Yeah.
We were at J. Webster Site 2, and
It's funny how you remember these.
He's got a good memory.
Justin Traskus was
Yep.
our DE at the time. Canyon did an impression of me as Scoutmaster that had all of us rolling on the ground laughing. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Is he wearing a bald cap?
Almost. No, I
Yeah,
had hair.
they-
I had hair then.
And that actually brings up another good point. I love the skits that they do. I mean, obviously we do them at colors,
Yeah.
both opening colors and closing ceremonies, and then in the dining hall, and then of course the first night of camp you guys have the waterside fires. But then when we were back at the camp, like if the scouts get bored, they start doing these creative skits, and we could, like, as leaders, we were just sitting in the the picnic chairs and just like
Yeah, that
watching
doesn't
them.
break out in Owen Bell Park.
Right.
No,
right.
no.
Like,
that is a unique scout camp.
where most of them, if they were home or in a different setting, they would have broken out their phones and
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
even looked at each
video
other.
games on it.
But
yeah.
now they're like, one group will be going up while another group's discussing what they're gonna do for their skit. And,
Yeah.
Well, you do a song after the meal in the dining hall. That's
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the kid that's the quietest all week, all of a sudden emceeing all these acts and stuff, and you're like, wow, yeah,
It brings out the extroverted traits for sure.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
It does.
Cool.
Yeah.
People come out of their shells.
Yeah.
yeah, and then that whole I'll be embarrassed. Being embarrassed is nothing.
Yeah.
It wears off.
I always used to explain that scouting is a safe environment to fail.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Right. You don't learn unless you fail, and this has the guardrails around it so you don't get injured. And
Yeah.
you may be embarrassed, but hey, aren't we all embarrassed at some point in our lives?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Continuing education too in Scouts is like you said, PhDs, master's degrees. I feel like a lot of the people I was in Scouts with have graduate degrees because you're growing up constantly looking to rank up. You're like learning. I have the next step. I have the next step. And I still feel like I want to go back to school for this. Because I just grew up that way.
That's a
right?
good point. Yeah, it does inculcate that perception of you need to continually learn about life
Yes.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a never-ending learning curve. So.
I have a dog chewing on the workbench. But
Is that our key to-
it's a sign.
Yeah, that's it.
and I mean, I think it's a great way to end it with the continuing education and just overall, it's been a great conversation. Thank you guys so much for coming out.
Yeah, thank you for volunteering.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, this is. I joked in the beginning, long time listener, first time participant. This is great to have community conversations on all the different topics you've had as well. So I appreciate the invite.
I'm a
Thank you.
long time caller, first time participant.
So yeah, thank you guys, and thank you, Jordan, for manning the switcher board.
Yeah,
That's,
of course. I don't know if I did a good job, but we'll see.
Well,
You did your best.
I did my
It's the
best.
Cub Scout motto.
Exactly.
I don't see any smoke coming from my equipment.
Yeah,
so that's all I
didn't
care about.
spill anything on it.
Great to see you, Jordan. I haven't seen you in a
Yeah,
while.
it's been awesome to catch up with you guys. Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Everyone else out there, thank you for watching. The Community Workbench family is kicking off. Actually, you know what? Before we go into that, I do want to recognize that the Community Workbench family had sponsored my wife's softball team from the Women's Softball Association of Greater Willimantic.
Nice.
And they were co-champions of the regular season. So we were awarded with these plaques, these beautiful plaques for their 2025. And thank you to my wife and her team. They had a really good time. Women's softball. My wife grew up in baseball, kind of like you guys grew up in Scouts. She's,
They're not mutually compatible. They are mutually. What's the term I'm looking for? They can coexist.
Exclusive.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. So you can still play sports and still be involved.
Although I was a much better scout than I was a.
I would agree. I would
Yes.
concur with that sentiment.
Yeah, both my kids are in scouting programs and athletic programs, so it can definitely be done. So thank you to them, and it was really rewarding to sponsor them and get our name out there a little bit further. So yes, so also we are right in the middle of our Be the One campaign. It was started by the American Legion in efforts to stop veteran suicide. If you know a veteran, and I'll extend that to any first responder, they definitely see some horrific things, and just call them, check on them. If you know a veteran or a first responder, combat vets, all the alike, be the one to check in on them. And if you need any other details or training or programs, you can visit betheone.org. Anyway, join us again Monday at 6 when we interview Jeff Goodnow, owner-operator of Fully Stoked Coffee, local coffee roaster, really good coffee, and he's also a consultant for beer brewers, and he helps set up a lot of breweries and whatnot. So, really interesting guy to talk to. So we'll be here Monday at 6 with Jeff. As always, buy local, hire local, dine local, volunteer local, donate local, Scout local. Have great days.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.